Welcome back to my channel, Stay Hype, where I help you heighten your personal experience through my own experience on this earth. My name is Kristen, and I am so excited to be recording this video today. I've been talking so much about shadow work lately because it's been absolutely transformative in my life. And so I wanted to make this video because I know that if you can be honest about your shadows, if you can really get real about it and start to actually do the integration work, you are going to feel completely different. You are going to be the most confident that you've ever been. You are going to start to step into your dreams and business ventures and things that you've always wanted to do. You are going to be way more confident when it comes to love and relationships and friendships, for that matter. It's life-changing, but you're going to have to do the work and you're going to have to really integrate it. And sometimes that can be a little painful, but I'm going to walk you through it. And so just get comfortable. Make sure you have a journal and a pen with you, because I'm going to go through the top 10 most common shadows that we are carrying as a society that we need to integrate in order to live our most abundant and confident life. So go ahead and grab a pen, grab a journal. I have my computer here, so if you see me looking down, I'm going to be reading each of the descriptions for you and giving you time to really think about it. And so what I kind of want to do is I'm going to go down each one. And if that resonates with you, if this particular shadow resonates with you, pause it if you have to. Really think about it, and then write it down. And then I'm going to go into a little bit of depth on how you can start to integrate and work through this, and also give you some examples. Okay, so I just want to get right into it. Let's get started, because it's going to be a little bit of a longer video today. So, top 10 most common shadows. First of all, shadow. What is that? That is the subconscious part of our psyche that we shove down into the dark. We keep it in the darkness. We don't want anyone to know about these shadows, because we were conditioned to think that these parts of us are unlovable, undesirable, undeserving. And so we keep them in the dark, but the problem is when we get triggered, these shadows come out and they start to take over. And a lot of us go into like a subconscious behavior when these shadows are triggered. And so we're going to go down each one and you will see what I'm talking about. But all of us have shadows. We all have shadows. And if we all just get more comfortable speaking about them, it won't be so difficult to heal. But we'll get into why we don't talk about it in a moment. So let's just start with number one, top 10 most common shadows. Number one is fear. Fear. So fear is a primal emotion that can manifest in various forms, such as fear of failure, fear of rejection, and the fear of the unknown, and fear of abandonment. I got stuck there for a second. So fear of the unknown and fear of abandonment. These fears often stem from past experiences, trauma, and societal conditioning that can limit our ability to take risks and pursue our goals. So fear, that is one of the top 10 most common shadows that we carry. And I think so many of us can relate to the fear of stepping in, the fear of rejection, the fear of failure, and especially the fear of abandonment. Based on how we grew up, based on the conditioning and the attachments or lack thereof that we formed in childhood with our parents, a lot of us have fears around abandonment, around not knowing what's going to happen next, around failing. And it's because we were not taught that the abandonment maybe that we felt in childhood because of our parents' inability to show up had nothing to do with us. We're taking the fear of the failure, the fear of the abandonment, the fear of rejection, we're taking it personal. We're thinking that the rejection and the abandonment has something to do with us. There was a reason why mom and dad didn't stick around. There was a reason why mom was emotionally unavailable or dad was emotionally unavailable and did not know how to nurture me the way that I needed to be nurtured when we were children. Society, has a lot of if you fail at this, people are going to laugh at you. You're going to be judged. But to be honest, if you're not failing, you're not even trying. And failing is a part of life. Failing is a part of learning. If you're not failing, you're not learning. And so it's all of these limited beliefs, these shadows that we carry around fear that really hold us back from relationships, that hold us back from going for jobs and our dreams and things that we really want to do, that stop us from traveling and leaving home and getting out there on our own, because that unknown is so scary. What's going to happen, And so we are so conditioned to think of fear as being something like it's a warning. It's a warning. There's if this happens, then I'm just going to fall apart. And that's simply not true, because how many of us have felt abandoned in relationships before? Let's just keep it real. How many of us have felt like a partner or someone had abandoned us? And we're still here. We're still standing. You're watching this video. You must have made it through. It hurt. It was painful. But what did you learn from that? And that is the bigger key. When we can start to integrate that fear of abandonment, this fear, and that fear is an illusion. It's something that our ego uses to protect us from danger. But when we can reprogram and say, hey, ego, I know that you think love is dangerous based on the experiences in childhood, but I've been doing my inner child work and I've been working on these fears. And I know that these fears are not really even logical, because my experiences do not define every single aspect of my life in the past. It's just something that I keep repeating, right? It's something that I keep repeating. So when we can reprogram the mind to say that fear is just trying to keep us safe, but we no longer need to be safe from the unknown. We no longer need to be safe from pursuing our dreams. It's okay for us to make mistakes. It's okay for us to fail. It's okay. We can no longer abandon ourselves in order of the fear of being abandoned. So many of us do that. We abandon our needs and our wants because we're so scared of being abandoned. So once we can reprogram and do that inner child work and say, I'm no longer going to abandon myself, therefore I don't fear being abandoned, because even if this person chooses to walk away, I still got me. Even if this person chooses to walk away, I know that I'm still a beautiful person and that I'm still worthy because I've done this work. So in order to integrate the shadow of fear, you have to do the things that you're fearing. You have to step into it. And so you have to integrate it by taking action. Okay, so that first one is fear. Moving on to the next one. The next one is anger. Okay, so anger is a powerful emotion that arises in response to perceived threats, injustices, or frustrations. It can manifest as irritability, resentment, or explosive outbursts. Unresolved anger can lead to aggression, hostility, and damaged relationships if not addressed. Anger. All right, so if that resonates with you, go ahead and write down anger. Anger is a big one, and it's one that I definitely struggled with and still do at times, because my mask was always being happy, right? I didn't feel like in childhood I was allowed to be angry. I grew up with a very narcissistic father that whenever I tried to express my disappointment or anger with him, he would meet me with explosiveness, and it would scare me. I would just shut down because he was so much bigger than me. He would yell so loud. He would manipulate and gaslight and do all these things. And so I just shoved it down. I already knew expressing anger was not safe, so it became a shadow of me. I pushed down my anger, and so throughout life, when things happen to me, I don't deserve to be angry. Someone would betray me. Someone would do something that warranted anger, which is a healthy, normal emotion. But because I was so conditioned not to feel it in childhood, I shove it down. But when I would get triggered, when I would get pushed to my limit, the explosiveness in me would come out, and I would be unrecognizable to myself. That mask, that people pleaser, that smile mask all the time would come off, and I would just turn into a version of myself that was scary. And the more I started healing and the closer I got to my awakening, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm behaving just like my father. I'm trying to mask these insecurities with this explosive anger, and this is not who I am. This isn't who I am, and I don't like that I can't control these emotions. And so how do we start to integrate anger, which is a healthy emotion, and process it in a safe container? Maybe that's rage and hitting the pillows. Maybe it's going out into the woods and just screaming at the top of your lungs or screaming into your pillow. Or maybe it's just actually having conversations and saying, hey, this made me angry and I'm allowed to be angry. We have to validate our anger in order to integrate the shadow of anger so that it doesn't take over us when we get into uncomfortable situations. It's absolutely okay for you to be mad. Anger is very healthy. It's a normal emotion. But I know that so many of us are tired of it running us to where we feel like it's uncontrollable and we say things and do things that we don't mean, saying words that are so hurtful, or some of us getting physically violent, punching holes in the wall, or even, more than that, hitting other people, which is just unacceptable. But it's a part of us that we have not expressed, that we've kept in the shadows. And when we get triggered, it comes out uncontrollable. So anger, we need to integrate that. The next one is shame. Shame is the lowest vibration that a human can feel. So shame is a deeply painful emotion characterized by feelings of unworthiness, inadequacy, and self-disgust. It often arises from perceived failures, mistakes, or societal judgment about what is acceptable or desirable. Shame can lead to self-criticism, self-isolation, and a pervasive sense of being fundamentally flawed. Shame. I know so many of us can relate to shame. And I have carried so much shame for a long time for the things that have happened to me, the things that I have done. But for me, the biggest way that I've carried shame is when I hurt somebody, whether it's intentional or unintentional. 9 times out of 10, it's unintentional. And I hurt somebody and someone calls me out and someone says, hey, I didn't like the way you did this. And it brings me back to a memory of how my dad did this or my mom did this. And I'm like, whoa, I had no idea that I was behaving the same way that my mom and dad were behaving, and I'm sitting here telling them that what they did to me is wrong, and now here I am, I'm the one doing that, and it's bringing up a lot of shame, and I don't want to be judged, and I don't want to be perceived as a negative or bad person, and I don't want this I don't want to be seen in this light. And so many of us are carrying deep shame for the mistakes and things that we've done, or we're carrying shame for other people, things that happened to us, and we're carrying the shame because we've been conditioned to think that we deserved what happened to us. We deserved that abuse, sexually, emotionally, verbally. We deserve it. So we're carrying the shame for someone else's actions because of their inability to admit that they were wrong. And then we create these patterns of behavior where we do the same thing to other people. And then now we're here and we have to admit it because we're breaking the cycles, but no one took accountability for the things that happened to us. And so it creates so much shame when we have to now admit and hold ourselves accountable, or we have to start to talk about something that is very taboo in society, or that is deemed, gross or disgusting, or something that we did that society is just not approving of, and because we care so much, or we used to care so much, because after this, you're not going to care so much, but we care so much about what other people think, that shame can just really run our lives, and it can keep us in this bubble. And like it said, it can make us isolate. It can make us feel like we are not desirable, not lovable. And that is simply not true. And so we have to start bringing up the shame. We have to get curious about the shame. We have to integrate the shame and say, I love you. I still love you. Talking to yourself, I know that you did this thing that may not be the best version of you, but I still love you. You're still worthy of love. And let's get to the root of why you did this, or let's get to the root of why you think this in the first place when it's something that maybe was done to you. Let's unpack it. All right. So we got to integrate shame. The next one is guilt. Guilt is an emotion that arises from a sense of having violated one's own moral or ethical standards. It can result from past actions or decisions that we regret, leading to feelings of remorse, self-blame, or self-punishment. Unresolved guilt can undermine our self-esteem and inhibit our ability to forgive ourselves and move forward. Guilt. How many of us are carrying guilt from the ways that we didn't stand up for ourselves? How many of us are carrying blame on the ways that we did not set those boundaries, especially when you get out of that toxic relationship and you start to really ruminate and not ruminate, but reflect on it, and you start to see, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that I allowed this person to do this. And I can't believe I should have said this. I should have said that in this moment. And I can relate to that so much in my boundaries. I didn't have any boundaries at all. I didn't even know what boundaries were. And so when people would cross my boundaries, and then I would go and it would take the time to really reflect on it, I would be so guilty. I would feel so guilty at myself because I was like, yo, I'm worth more than this. And I can't believe that I allowed this person to kind of get away with this and I didn't address it. Or feeling guilt that you did something that is out of character. And maybe you did it out of revenge, or maybe you did it out of anger, that other shadow, because these shadows layer on top of each other. Maybe you did something out of shame, or you did something out of guilt and, or out of anger, and now you have this guilt where you're like, man, I feel so guilty about this. I cannot believe I manipulated this person. I can't believe I did this. I know exactly what I was doing. Once you really sit and look in the mirror, you're like, I know exactly what I was doing, and this is not okay, and I feel so guilty. So it can be guilt towards crossing your own moral standards and boundaries, or guilt because you knew that you crossed someone else's. And sometimes we can feel guilty when we know that someone is more disempowered and we use them as a punching bag, or we walked all over them because we could, because we had something that we needed to get out and we knew that they weren't going to stand up, because you can tell energetically when someone is not as empowered. So guilt is a big one that we have to integrate and know that we make those mistakes, and we have to start setting those boundaries going forward. We can no longer allow people to cross our boundaries and just look the other way and just, no, we gotta start integrating the guilt by admitting it, and also setting those boundaries and letting people know how we need to be treated. Okay? So guilt. Moving on to insecurity. Insecurity involves a lack of confidence or fear of not measuring up to external standards. It can manifest as feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, or a constant need for validation from others. Insecurity can arise from our early experiences of rejection or criticism and can impact various aspects of our lives, including relationships, career, and self-image. Insecurity. Another big one, okay? I'm 5 for 5 at this point, I think. 5 for 5. So insecurity. So many of us have these insecurities because we want to be externally validated, right? And that comes from a lack of validation in childhood. A lot of us didn't hear the words and didn't get the affection and the love and the kisses that we needed growing up. And so therefore we search outside of ourselves because we don't realize that we can fill these insecurities and voids within ourselves. And so we start to feel like something's wrong with us when we feel rejected by mom and dad, when we have bids of affection and love, when we need that good job, when we need that support in school, when we need that tenderness and that understanding with our mistakes. We can start to form insecurities within ourselves to think that I'm not good enough and I need people to constantly tell me that I'm beautiful or that I'm smart or that I am, determined. I need to hear these things that I didn't hear in childhood, and I'm still seeking them outside of myself. We see that so much with social media and, the things that people post and the ways that people just really are craving that validation and the likes. We've all been a victim of this, I know. And when you look and you post something and it only gets 3 or 4 likes and you start to think there's something wrong with me, that wasn't good enough, when it has nothing to do with you, okay? Maybe it was just the post, maybe it was just the timing, it's the algorithm, whatever. But it has nothing to do with you. And so these insecurities of not measuring up to these societal standards are what keep us so disempowered. And so we have to integrate this by validating ourselves. We have to validate ourselves, and we have to stop looking outside of ourselves for the worthiness and the deservingness. We are worthy, we are deserving, whether anybody says that or not. We know who we are, right? We're working on that, and we have to love who we are in order to feel secure in who we are. Okay, so to integrate that shadow of insecurity, we have to stop seeking outside of ourselves, and we have to look in the mirror and say, I'm enough. I'm enough. When I make mistakes, I'm enough. When I get 3 likes, I'm enough. When I get 100,000 likes, I'm enough. It doesn't matter. My worthiness is not measured on someone liking me. My worthiness is not measured on me getting this job. My worthiness is not measured on someone choosing me to be their partner. I choose me. Okay, and I know that the rejection is just redirection. Reframe what rejection actually means to you. So many of us tie rejection to our worthiness. So therefore, when someone lets us down or shuts down, we automatically think that it's personal when it's not. It's not personal. We are just thinking that it's personal because of the limited beliefs that we have developed. So insecurity, big one. Jealousy is the next one. Jealousy is an emotion characterized by feelings of resentment or envy towards others' success, possessions, or relationships. It often stems from a fear of loss or inadequacy and can lead to possessiveness, competitiveness, or bitterness if not addressed. Jealousy can strain relationships and prevent us from experiencing joy in our own lives. Yep. I've definitely felt jealousy in relationships, and it wasn't necessarily the fact that I was a jealous person, but also that I was in the wrong relationship, and also tying back into that insecurity and not feeling good enough and feeling like other people were smarter than me, which it's true. I'm not the smartest person in the world. Thinking that other people are more beautiful than me, which beauty is subjective. So I'm sure I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea. You see that I'm integrating it right here in front of you. The jealousy is being so, fixated on what someone else has and someone else's success, instead of looking in the mirror and saying, how do I create my own success? What does success actually look like to me? I'm looking at what someone else is doing, but at the end of the day, is that what I really truly want to be doing? Or I'm jealous of this person's relationship, but I don't even know what their relationship is like behind closed doors. And so I'm jealous of something that I may not really truly even want deep down. And there's enough for everybody. Just because someone has a beautiful relationship or someone has a successful career doesn't mean I can't create that for myself. And so these inadequacies and this self-doubt is what creates the jealousy, and it makes us do things that are so out of character. And for me, it really manifested in my relationships because I didn't feel like a beautiful woman. I didn't feel like I was desirable. I didn't feel like I was enough. And so if any other woman that came around my partner that I felt threatened by, I immediately just put this woman on a pedestal. I didn't even have to know anything about them. I just would look at them and there would be something in them that I saw that I felt like I was lacking. And I would be like, she's just so much better. She just is just so confident in herself. I'm sure my partner is just wanting her instead of me. And again, that comes from partially you and something within you, but you also could be picking up on something intuitively that you're maybe lacking in a relationship as well. But jealousy can come from so many other things, not just relationships. But we can get it too. There's no need to be jealous of someone else. Like, we can create the life that we want. And if we focus less on what other people have and more about what we want to create for ourselves and realize that we're equal, there's no one above or beneath us. We're all equal. It's in your mind that you're putting people on pedestals. So stop doing that, because when you put someone on a pedestal, you're affirming that you're beneath them. And why? Why? Just because they look a little bit different than you, or they have been at a different point in their journey that you haven't been at. And some of the time we're jealous of people's success and we're not even putting in the work. Make it make sense. Like, you're jealous of someone putting in the work. Well, you could put in the work too. You could do it too, right? So jealousy, think about that. Do you need to integrate that shadow and start talking about it? The next one is control. Control is the shadow of control involves a compulsive need to exert power or influence over people, situations, or outcomes. It can manifest as micromanaging, perfectionism, or manipulation stemming from a fear of uncertainty or vulnerability. The desire for control can create stress, conflict, and a sense of alienation from others. Control. How many of my control freaks do we got out here? Because I was one of them, especially again in relationships. A lot of my shadows come up in relationships. I would try to control all of my relationships so that I felt safe. I wanted to control the people, the person. I would see my partner as a possession instead of a free, sovereign human. And it was because I was so scared of being abandoned. I was so scared of being hurt. And so I thought that if everything didn't go the way that I needed it to go, that was going to really be unsafe for me. That was really scary for me. So I want to control how people see me. I want to control how people perceive me. I want to control what everybody does so that I'm in a certain light. And that is a deep, deep shadow from maybe feeling out of control in childhood, or being super micromanaged by that helicopter parent in childhood where you weren't allowed, you felt so out of control. There was so much chaos going on in your childhood that when you grow up, you're like super controlling, because you're like, no, I was so out of control in childhood that I am going to control it. I'm going to make sure that you don't abandon me. I'm going to make sure that you don't cheat on me. But then we all realize, like, we cannot control other people. If someone's going to cheat on you, they're going to cheat on you. If someone's going to walk away, they're going to walk away. And we can't control that. Our job is not to control other people, and we shouldn't want to control people in relationships, whether it's platonic or romantic. We want people to choose us freely. We want people to be loyal to us freely. And it's so exhausting, especially coming from the perspective of relationships, to feel like you have to be on someone 24/7. It's exhausting and it's tiring, and it doesn't make the other person feel good or trusted. And it's just not, it's a really painful shadow. And so needing to always tell somebody what to do and tell somebody what to think and everything is just to keep you safe. And you have to realize that the only person that you can control is yourself. And so you have to start trusting yourself that you are going to make decisions if something is coming up, that I don't have to control you. I trust you until you give me a reason not to. And then I love myself enough, because I've integrated all these other shadows, to walk away. If I need to, I'm going to just remove myself from the situation. I'm allowing you to be you, and you allow me to be me. So how do we integrate control? By letting go of it, right? Okay, we got three more. Dependency. Dependency is the shadow aspect characterized by an excessive reliance on others for validation, approval, or emotional support. It can manifest as clinginess, people-pleasing, or fear of abandonment stemming from a fear of being alone or inadequate. Dependency can lead to unhealthy relationships or a lack of self-sufficiency if not addressed. The codependency is huge, and I think so many of us can resonate with this shadow, myself included. Okay, I think I'm just all of them. But dependency is huge, and it's not necessarily always a dependency on people, but substances, alcohol, sex. Like, we can become dependent on anything. Exercise. There's just so many things that we can become dependent on. But I think one of the biggest things is people and relationships, where we feel like we need other people's validation all the time in order to feel like we're enough. Where we constantly are people pleasing and putting our needs and everything on the back burner because we are dependent on this person being in our lives in order for us to feel enough. We are terrified of being alone and just sitting with ourselves. And that comes from a lot of us being alone in childhood. Some of us grew up super lonely and not getting the validation and the love that we needed growing up. And so we grew up and we became super anxious, dependent adults, where we have separation anxiety. We don't know how to stand alone. We constantly need somebody to hold our hand in order to walk through life, and that is not empowering. It sucks when you feel like you constantly need something outside of yourself in order to feel whole. It's not true. You are whole right now on your own. And so the way to start healing that codependency and start to integrate the shadow of dependency is to walk alone. Is to be okay, is to stop jumping from relationship to relationship, is to put down the substance, is to be honest with yourself that you're drinking too much, that you're using this as a way to cope, and to start to get clear on why you feel this way in the first place, because there is a reason. And a lot of it does stem from childhood. A lot of us were raised by very codependent parents, and some of those parents are still dependent on us as we speak right now. You know that, like, you feel responsible for your parents' emotions. That's why you're not honest with them. You feel responsible for how they feel or the outcome of a situation. And that's why you're, not doing what you need to do because of your dependency or someone else's dependency on you. You're scared of not only being rejected, but you're also scared of being the rejecter. You don't want to let someone down. You don't want to hurt someone, but you're rejecting yourself in the same token. So dependency is huge. And for me, the way that I integrated that shadow was I got comfortable being alone, and I had to start facing my addictions, and I had to quit all of it. I had to just stand and just be completely me, by myself, sober, alone. That's how I integrated that. So it's challenging, but doable. The last two, projection. Projection involves attributing our own unconscious thoughts, feelings, or qualities onto others. It can manifest as blaming, judging, or idolizing others while denying or repressing those same qualities within ourselves. Projection can distort our perception and lead to misunderstandings, conflicts, and missed opportunities for self-awareness. I think projection is one of the number one shadows in our society. I think it's like the number one shadow that so many of us are carrying in our society is projection. I was the projection queen. I did not want to just say I was angry at someone. I didn't want to say that I feel insecure. I didn't want to say these things, so I would project it onto everyone. I would make fun of people for the same things that I did within myself. I would call people so insecure for the same things that would make me insecure. I would try to project my anger and be like, what, are you mad at me? I feel like you're mad, even though I was the one that was mad. I would also project beautiful qualities where I would say, man, this person is just so creative. This person's so smart. Not seeing that those are still qualities that I have within myself. I would project everything. And I want to give you an example. Like a common way that we project is like, say you're out with your friends on a Friday night and you're exhausted. You're out at the club and you're exhausted. And instead of just saying, hey, I'm exhausted, I want to go home, you're like, hey, are you tired? You ask your friends, are you tired? I just saw you yawn. If you want to go home, we can go home. Are you tired? And then maybe your friend's like, no, I'm having a good time. And you're just like, and then maybe 10 minutes later, hey, are you getting tired? Are you ready to go? I know that you have to work in the morning. Yeah, I know you have to work in the morning. Let me know when you want to go. We can go whenever. And your friend's just like, no, I'm good. I'm having fun. Hey. And so why don't you just say that you want to go home? Stop projecting how you feel onto someone and just be direct about it. Just say that you want to go home. And I know that so many of us have done that, or something that we may not want to do. Like, I don't want to go out at all. But instead of just saying that, you feel like you're going to let people down. So you project, I know that you've been tired and you've worked all week, and I'm sure that you just don't want to go out tonight. And then your friend's like, nah, I'm ready to go out. I want to go. Let's go. And you're just like, you're projecting how you feel onto someone else, hoping that they'll just say it when you could just say it. And or projecting insecurities is huge. We see that so much on social media in the comments. Oh my goodness. So many people project their own insecurities onto people on social media, and it just hurts my heart. I can't stand it, but I do it too. I've done it. And so now, how do you heal that? By being direct about your feelings. How do you heal that? By understanding what you feel, really getting clear on how you feel. So that way, not only are you you're not projecting onto anybody else, but you also are aware when someone's projecting on you, where you're like, no, that is not what I meant. That is not what I'm feeling. That's not what I said. Like, that's how you feel. So it's really good, and it's a good way to build discernment. So discernment is a good way to integrate projection. So getting clear on what is your feelings and getting clear on that and owning that and just being direct about it. You don't need to beat around the bush. Get clear about it. And then you'll also know when someone's doing it to you. And then last but not least, which I think is another very high top 5 of society, is avoidance. Avoidance. Avoidance is the tendency to avoid or suppress uncomfortable emotions, thoughts, or situations rather than confronting them directly. It can manifest as procrastination, denial, or distraction stemming from a fear of facing our innermost fears and insecurities. Avoidance can hinder personal growth and perpetuate cycles of suffering if left unchecked. How many of us would rather fly to the moon than have an uncomfortable conversation? How many of us would rather go deep diving into the submarine and never come back up than have to have some difficult conversations? I can say 100% I used to avoid how I felt. I would beat around the bush, or I would just cut people off. I would just cut people off so that I just don't have to talk to them ever again, and therefore I can just avoid having the conversation altogether. I can't stand, or I couldn't stand having uncomfortable conversations. I'd just rather avoid it, and that stemmed from my mom and dad. They don't like having uncomfortable conversations, so my mom would just completely shut down and just not talk for a while, or just not talk to the person. Or my dad would be super explosive and project and manipulate and do all the things to avoid his emotions, or he would go to substances or women, whatever it was. So yeah, we can avoid through working a ton of hours. We can avoid from substance abuse and alcohol. We can avoid from jumping from relationship to a relationship. We can avoid just getting defensive and shutting people down. There's so many ways that we avoid it. We can avoid it. And so you can see that all these different shadows can layer on top of each other. The control can be around insecurity, and then the insecurity could be around the shame, and then the shame can come from a deep-rooted fear. So all of these shadows are complex and intertwined. And so to integrate avoidance, we have to start being direct. We can't run from uncomfortable conversations anymore. And I'm here to tell you guys that I've had to work through all 10 of these. I'm 10 out of 10. Okay. And from admitting the shadow, that's one of the biggest parts of integration. Admitting that you have this shadow is one of the biggest parts to integration that set you free. Then starting to hold yourself accountable for these shadows is the second. Holding yourself accountable. For sure. Accepting that this is a part of you, and this is something that is a part of you, and you have to love these parts of you as well in order to feel truly confident and to feel like you're a whole human being. And then to take action. Okay, you have to take action and do the things that you are avoiding. You have to talk about the anger. You have to sit in the shame and talk about it. You have to talk about the guilt. A lot of it is just conversations and talking. To be honest, the integration is just having the conversations around what it is. I'm angry because I feel shame, because I feel codependent, because I feel controlling. I am controlling because. And so once we can get to the root of why we do it, then we can start to heal it and shift and reprogram, and it no longer controls us. The reason why you feel so insecure, the reason why these shadows are controlling you so much is because you think that you are unlovable. And so you have to say, man, I'm feeling so much shame from having to admit that I was wrong. It is so hard for me to admit that I was wrong because no one in my family growing up admitted when they were wrong, right? And so when you feel that shame come up because you have admitted that you were wrong, you have to talk to your inner child and be like, I still love you anyway. I still love you. It's okay for you to be wrong. It's okay for you to make a mistake. It's okay. It's okay. I still love you anyway. Oh, that rhymed. It's okay. It's okay. I still love you anyway. It's okay. It's okay. I still love you anyway. Hey, okay? It is. And that's so true. Maybe that's what you need to say in your head. It's okay. I still love you anyway. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has done something that they're ashamed of. Everyone has felt guilty. Everyone has felt anger. And all of these emotions are perfectly normal and healthy. Where it becomes unhealthy is when it becomes a part of our identity that we hold on to for years and years, and it's uncontrollable. Like we are just all over the place. And this is how we feel when we get so dysregulated. Avoidance and shutting down is emotional dysregulation. Anger and outbursts is emotional dysregulation. Trying to control everything is emotional dysregulation. Feeling super codependent and having anxiety, separation anxiety is emotional dysregulation. So the way that we start to regulate these emotions is to start talking ourselves through it, is to start having these conversations with our inner child and saying, hey, I know that you feel like you have to control everything, but we don't need to control everything anymore. We are going to start making better decisions with who we allow in our energy. We don't have to control anyone. So we're going to start really being more conscious of who we let in our heart. So that way we feel safe. The reason why you're so controlling is because you don't feel safe. So me, the higher self, is going to start showing up for the inner child the way that the inner child needed someone to show up for them in childhood. Okay, we don't have to avoid uncomfortable conversations. It's just a conversation. I know that it's scary, and I know that you feel dysregulated, and I know that you may cry and feel like you're going to sweat and shake when you have to speak up because dad was very aggressive towards you. And so you're scared of this person being aggressive towards you if you speak up, but I'm going to protect you. I'm not going to allow someone to manipulate us anymore. I'm not going to allow someone to project on us anymore. I'm going to stand firm, even if I cry. Even if I shake, even if I come off as weak, even though it's not weak to cry, I'm still going to stand firm. I'm still going to get my point across, whether I can talk like this or if I'm crying. It's a learning. We're learning. It's scary sometimes to step in. It's scary. And so we integrate by having the conversations. Okay. So we have to acknowledge it. We have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to accept it, and we have to take action. All right. So I really, really hope that this video helped you guys. Let me know if you know what shadows in the comments. Let's get real about it. Let's start talking about it. Leave it in the comments. How many out of the 10 you resonate with? Write them down. Let's talk about it. Let's start integrating the shadows right now in the comments. I told you, talking about it is the number one step. Just admitting it. All right. So I hope this helped. I love you guys so much. There'll be more videos to come when it comes to this. Leave a like, please, and share this video with someone that you think needs it. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye.